Hello, my friends. Welcome to the Wise Idea Weekly Podcast with Christopher J Harris. I am your host, Christopher J Harris, and I'm so honored, so excited. I'm even getting tongue-tied right here at the beginning that you would take the time to hang out with us every single week. Man, it has been such an amazing journey. I've been hearing from so many of you all each week that you're tuning in and you're being inspired and encouraged and challenged even at points with the guests that we have on, the content that we're producing, the conversations that we're having, and just the entire direction of the wisdom that is being shared. I am so focused and on mission about what we are called to do with this podcast. And I'm just very thankful and humbled that we could use this platform to inspire and encourage so many people, not just in one country, but literally all around the world. Well, you know, I say it every week, but I mean it. Like I'm really serious about it, that we are focused and on mission to provide strategies for hearts to be inspired and heads to become wise. Our goal is simply this: to inspire everyday people to live wise lives. I am personally passionate about life and leadership and family and marriage and ministry. That is the church. And so that's what we spend our focus on for this particular podcast. And I believe very sincerely that when wisdom becomes a part of your life, your entire life gets better in every single area. Well, if you're new to us, each month, we have themes that we focus on and ideas that we focus on. And for the month of May, we focused on moms and motherhood and what it meant to celebrate moms. Of course, Mother's Day was right there smack dab in the middle of the month of May. And we had a great time talking about moms. We even laughed a little bit. You have to go back and watch one of those episodes. We had one of our comedian friends that joined us for an episode, and we laughed about moms and observations about moms. It's just a fun month. And I could not think of a better way to put a capstone or put the icing on the cake, talking about moms and motherhoods, but to actually invite my wife, my bride, my queen on the Wise Idea podcast to talk a little bit about moms and motherhood and her journey and observations that she's been making. And so for the month of June, we're going to focus on dads and fatherhood and what does it mean to be great fathers. And I know that this particular episode actually may run a little bit into the month of June, but we want to kind of put a capstone, seal the deal, if you would, for this whole month of May and what we've talked about with regards to moms. Before I do that, though, before I invite my wife in and we jump in and have a great conversation, I want to invite everybody that if you're listening to this podcast, particularly those of you that are on iTunes or Google Play, I want to invite you, please go to iTunes or Google Play and leave us a rating and a review. Leave us a rating and a review. That'll help us get the word out and also help other people find us. And the same content that you're being encouraged by and motivated by, other people will also be inspired and motivated by it as well. So with that said, guess what, y'all? I got my wife on here today. Wife, how does it feel to be on the Wise Idea podcast?
It feels absolutely wonderful. Thank you for the invitation. I appreciate it.
That's so funny. She knows the backstory. She knows how it got started. She saw the idea when it was just an idea, and now here we are a few months in, and it's a reality. And she gets a chance now to actually be interviewed. So I guess that's really cool. I guess to have your wife on the interview for the podcast. That's really cool. I love it.
Glad to be here.
So,
thank you.
How does it? You trying to be real proper and all that kind of good stuff. It's all good. I ain't mad at you. Yeah. So how does it feel to be a mom? Let's talk about your journey into motherhood. And you're well qualified to talk about it. We've got 4 children in all kinds of age groups and categories. And life is fun and busy. And sometimes we are parents. Sometimes we are Uber drivers, running errands for our kids and all those kinds of things. So let's talk about it a little bit. Let's talk about your journey of motherhood.
Well, let's see, that journey, or our journey, although I'm the mother, you're the father, the journey to motherhood for me has been really exciting. I'll say I had an excellent model of a mother in the home. There were 5 of us growing up, and my parents adopted an additional child. So there were 6 of us, but he didn't grow up with me. I'm much older than him, but motherhood in that house was very structured. And my mother centered her life around us, her children. So that was kind of like what I saw as a model for a mother. But my journey, or our journey, was a little different. We didn't really get the opportunity, like most people, to plan our children. Most people, married couples, they kind of have this roadmap. We're going to have a child at this time. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. We're going to do this. For us, it was a little different. Of course, we were married and had our child like within the first year and a half, and then some years by, and then we had the boys who are 12 months apart, so that was a little different there. It's almost like having twins. And then we took a 10-year hiatus, and now we have our 3-month-old, who will be 4 months in a couple of days. And so that journey for motherhood has really looked different and really has expanded even as the years have gone. Because when you think about having a 15-year-old and then having a 3-month-old, the things that I have learned and grown in and developed throughout this walk of motherhood has been absolutely amazing. So the journey for me has been different. It has been exciting, and it has been very unpredictable. I'll say that it has been very unpredictable, but definitely one that I would not trade for anything.
So with all of that said, and you made it sound really good, the first question I'm going to ask you, or maybe the next question I'm going to ask you, is what do you know now as a mom that you thought you knew before, and at some point the light bulb really got turned on?
What do I know now? I think that I know now that I can't parent my children like my parents, like my mother and father parented me. I think that's like a big takeaway, because they were great models of parenthood and leading, as far as like modeling great relationships with each other, being there for us as children. They were financial providers. We were very active children. We were a faith-based family. So we had all of those things. And so I really thought going into motherhood that if I just did exactly what was done then, that I would be equally as successful as I deemed my mother to have been, and she is no longer with us. She passed away recently, but I would pride myself and say that if I could be as good as mom, then I know I'm doing something right. But one of the things that I've learned with the social construct and the things that have changed in society, particularly social media, and the greater levels of distractions that our children encounter, is that I really had to beef up that commitment to communicate with my children. A lot of times, particularly, when I was growing up, and I'm sure you too, husband, and probably a lot of the listeners, when we were growing up, we were told to do things, and we had to do it because we were told to do that. And we did not express our opinion about it. We didn't have an opportunity to really share or give feedback around that, because that was not the culture in our home. But, I want to say you and I worked really hard, and I know that I worked hard to give my children that opportunity to be able to share their thoughts and feelings in a respectful and productive way. And so having those ongoing dialogues, really allowing them to ask questions, and even respectfully challenge some things that they may think is not fair. That's just kind of different. That's really different. But I think that approach really helps to develop them as people, and let them know that their words and thoughts and ideas have value in this world. So I always say to them, use your words because your words are very valuable. And I would expect them to use their words with me and you, of course, and share their thoughts and ideas. So that's one major takeaway that I've had in these years.
Now I think that's incredible. So, all right. So I know that you've got friends who you talk to probably almost on a daily basis, and others that you email and you hang out with at points, or y'all get in conversations about life and marriage and mothering and all of that stuff. When moms get together, what are y'all talking about?
We try to talk about everything but the kids. But we really talk about, in most cases, the uniqueness of our individual children. And we like to talk about how, strategies and different things you try with one may not be as effective with others. And then, swapping different strategies and tools to be successful parents, because every single child is different. And every method and strategy and approach that you used with one child may not work for the other. And so sometimes talking with other mothers about things they did and found success with can really be a great tool, a way for you to build your toolkit for yourself.
Oh, that's cool. So you still, and I mean, I love what you're saying. This is so incredible. I'm learning some stuff about you even while I listen. So this is really cool. What are the frustrations though that the moms talk about when y'all get together and y'all are at the restaurant and spending up our money, or y'all are on the phone, or whatever y'all are doing when y'all are together? What are the frustrations that moms are talking about?
I think particularly with children that are that have their needs met regularly, that have access to lots of resources that all children may not have access to. So our children are fortunate enough to be in that group. So I'm speaking specifically about that group. The sense of entitlement that the children may have. And sometimes we give them so much, and we aim to do such a good job that we build them to be individuals that are entitled to have things, or they feel that things should be handed to them, and it can diminish their level of gratefulness. And so I think that's a challenge as a mother to balance that. How do I balance, making sure they have what they need, but allowing them to have a productive struggle in life so that they're still learning and growing, and that they don't feel that they're entitled to everything, that some things, really require the work. And so sometimes that's that communication that we're talking about, because you're day in and day out, you're giving and you're doing, and the kids think they see that level of automaticity, and so they can become conditioned to believe that this is the way life is, and life is not that way. And so those are some of the challenges that I've had an opportunity to talk with other mothers about with our children, making sure that we are providing them, or that we are raising them to be productive adults and citizens that will contribute to the world. If that's in the faith-based community, and the secular community, wherever they go, making sure that they are well-rounded individuals that are able to really do a part and not expect others to carry their weight for them. So that's been one of the things we've talked about.
No, I think that's really solid. And for everybody that's listening to this episode today, just to be clear, I want you to know that my wife and I, these are not scripted answers. I actually have no idea how she's going to answer these questions that I'm just throwing at her. But let's dig in a little bit to this entitlement thing, because I think that's a reality that regardless of whatever level the parents are at, educationally or socioeconomically, or any of those kinds of things, if we're not careful, because we've got so much at our disposal now. We've got, technology, we've got devices. I think I read something somewhere a couple of weeks ago that the average home now has about 8 devices in it, for a family of 3, and there's 6 people in our family, so you can multiply that. So how do we reel in this entitlement? How do we deal with it? How do we address it? What's the solution there? What are the answers?
I think a healthy balance, structures, boundaries, systems, and schedules really help to let them see that, certain things we may have, this is a privilege. I don't have to have this. I'll use devices as an example because our kids they have heavy devices. They are really into those things. And so I'm really trying to be intentional as of late to make sure that they are using the device for a certain amount of time. Then they go outside and they come back in. Then there's time for them just to connect as siblings with no devices, and really let them see that the world does not revolve around just the use of a device. And so that's just one way of hitting it really balanced. Okay. Another way, when you talk about entitlement, they love to have breakfast made for them. And so, it's that expectation of, you're cooking tomorrow, Mom? You're going to make us breakfast? So those conversations. And then I try to flip it back to them and say, well, no, are you going to cook? And then and then there's that reflective moment when they say, well, I can't cook. And then it's, well, can you please, are you able to do it? And we have one child in particular who was saying to me as his way of being sweet, oh, you work so hard. Oh, I just feel sorry for you. You work so hard. And I really interpret that as his way of saying, I see your work and I understand what you are doing. So really, also like teaching them to voice their appreciation and to show their appreciation through some type of action. And so I applaud that particular child for showing it in that way. That's like a way to really get them to reflect on what they have. We have a student that.
Let me pause you just for a second. I'm glad you interpreted that way, because you help me out just now, because if it's the same child that I think you're talking about, he walked up to me the other day and said, Daddy, I feel so sorry for you. And I said, why? Because you never get to sleep. You're always working.
Yes, that is.
But then he asked for he asked for me to take. Yeah, he asked for me to take him and get some food though from one of the local restaurants in the same breath. I thought he was just trying to set me up for the okie doke.
Yeah, but it was an appreciative statement that's made to say, I recognize what you do. I recognize that there's a sacrifice being made here. We have a child that attends a theater magnet school, and that is a good, 40-minute drive one way each morning to attend school. And so just getting her to understand the value of having a parent to take you to school that far every day, when there are, notable schools right here close to you, is a privilege. Like getting them to understand you're not entitled, or we're not required to do these things. And so that is where you talk about that balance of having them to understand what we're required to do: food, clothing, shelter, and everything else is extra. So getting them to really understand that. So I think that providing them balance, having conversations around it, and also giving them responsibilities, I think that also contributes to them being feeling like they are part of a community, that their work is important, and that it provides, it helps our little world go around. So giving them their day-to-day responsibilities without always incentivizing them. Because sometimes, because allowances are great. I think they're great. Growing up, my parents did not give allowance because they didn't believe in allowance, because they felt like as children, you need to do your chores because that's what you needed to do. And then if we needed to get money for different events or different things like that, they provided the money that way. But there was no chore and then, you're paid to do a chore. And, and of course, as a kid, I thought that was crazy because I had friends that got allowance. I'm like, why aren't my parents giving me allowance or whatever? Because most parents give their kids allowance to teach them responsibility and decision making. Well, they took the opposite, to say, no, this is the route that you're going to take. You're going to do your chores because you're a part of this family and that's your responsibility. Now, aside, if you need some money, here's some money to do these different things. And so here we follow something similar. They don't have a set allowance, but we try to make sure that they have what they need. And we've recently, we've recently given them the little debit card system so that they are able to be responsible and make choices around spending that way, but definitely not tying that to their chores, because this is what you need to do because we're all a family and you're responsible. So this is how we are going to function and keep our house clean, keep our clothes clean and all of that those types of things.
Which is a full-time job all by itself, that's for sure.
Yeah.
You mentioned you mentioned the debit cards, and just to clarify for our listeners, this is and I'll put this in the show notes so that everybody will have an opportunity to check this out. So far, we've been using it, and it's been working really well. But there's this app that we use. It's called Greenlight, and it's a kid-friendly financial services app that allows for them to have a secured app that we can control. We have a lot of control over it. So it's not a regular, debit card that's linked to an account that if it gets lost and, people can just charge up on your card and all that. It's a totally secure system. We know exactly how much is in there. We can control where it's spent and shut it down and lock the card and just all those kinds of things. So it's really a great tool. So what's your take on the whole conversation about giving money for grades, for the different grades and all of that? And I know you've got, for those that are listening to this episode, obviously I'm interviewing my wife as a mother, but she's also an educator. So you can probably put both hats on here and talk about that a little bit. So what's your thought on that?
I think that incentives, I'm not against incentives. I was a previous classroom teacher, and when I was in the classroom, I would start my year off incentivizing my children every day. And then around week 3, I would, move to incentivizing them every week. And then by the end of the quarter, I was not incentivizing them at all. It would be my words and it would be my expectations. And it was my way of building in them a level of intrinsic motivation, because they're not all wired with that level of motivation. And so I would use that sometimes to get them started, but then their progress and their growth would then begin to motivate them moving forward. So I started out with it. It's almost like dangling a carrot, and then once they get a little bit of success, a little bit, I spread that out. And so then I would do one big party at the end of the school year. So I'm kind of on the fence about it. I'll say it this way. I am not against incentives because incentives are very powerful. I believe in them. I invest in them. I just know that sometimes when we give them too often, our children begin to expect them, which leads them back to that sense of entitlement. And so I did this, what are you going to do for me? So that's that sense of you owe me. And so the moment a child is asking you, what are you going to do for me? They really have not internalized or learned whatever process that you sent them through to get the incentive. Okay. And so if they're doing that in the beginning of a school year or in the beginning of a process, in the beginning, that's fine. But you have to be careful because you don't want the incentive to be their only motivation for doing what they need to do long term. So you got the administrator hat there, you got the teacher hat there, you got the mama hat there. So it's all of it, going in. So yes, incentivized for grades. We have a child that really has to work hard to make honor roll if he does. So he has to really work hard. I'd like to reward the effort. So there is an incentive there. We have another child who can blink his eyes twice and will make principal's honor roll without thinking about it, right? Now, to be fair and equitable in our home, we incentivize both. But if I had a choice, I would incentivize one and do something different with the other because the progress really is.
So are you an advocate of participation trophies?
Yes and no. So that again goes with the progress and that individualization, because when we talked a bit earlier in this call about each child is different and each case is different. I am a part of a group, and I'll use a school system example for you to make it kind of plain so you'll understand where I'm coming from. I took a group of high needs children to a education bowl, and they were competing against teams from all over the district. Some of those kids were from gifted centers, exceptionally high students, and they're all on this, playing field. And they only had a first, second, and third place winner, right? So the likelihood of the group that I brought to ever win was pretty much like 0.00009% if they were to ever have a chance to place or have their name called at all. And so that happened for like 2 of the event times that I had gone. So I spoke with the event creators and shared with them, when you have a group that is as heterogeneous as this group that you have in here, you have to make concessions so that children's will or their progress is not diminished because of their inability to ever be successful, because the playing field is not leveled. So they made the adjustment, and I applaud them for that. They had a bronze category, and all of the groups that fell in that bronze category got a little bronze, little sticker thing. It was really cute. And then there was a silver category, there was a gold category, and then they did first, second, and third. Because in cases like that, you're rewarding the effort of those that are there, because the playing field is not level. When it's an athletic event and the playing field is somewhat level, then you lost, and you have to learn, because you have to learn to lose. You won't always win. Sometimes you'll give your best and that's not enough. But if I'm in a system that's designed for me not to be successful in the first place, then I'm an advocate for participation trophies.
Man, that sounds really deep to me. I get it. So, all right. Yeah, that's deep. All right, guys, we'll be right back. I know you are right in the middle of an incredible conversation, and you were gleaning things from this incredible conversation that we're having currently. We'll get right back to it. I was enjoying myself as well, but I wanted to interject really quickly and just invite you, if you are listening to this podcast, that probably means that you are also on social media. Well, listen, I'm on social media. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Twitter. As a matter of fact, y'all, guess what? I'm also on Pinterest. I would love to have you as a part of my tribe, my following, my connection, my social media family. And so if you're on any of those platforms, I'm at CJ Harris O-N-E, CJ Harris, O-N-E. Would love to connect with you. So while this commercial is even going on, before we get back into the conversation, why don't you go online right now, pull your devices out, pull your computer out, and hit the follow button, hit the friend request button, hit the engage button, and we'd be so glad to have you as a part of our social media following and family. Not only that, as you listen to this podcast, you may be hearing things that are insightful for you, things that are being shared where the light bulb goes off. I would love to hear about those moments. As a matter of fact, you may be listening and there may be questions that you have or things you'd like to share with us that you're hearing. And either way, we'd love to hear from you. So please send us an email. The email address is info, I-N-F-O, at ChristopherJHarris.com. Again, that's info at ChristopherJHarris.com. Not only that, but lastly, if you have a project or a book or a platform that you'd like to promote or advertise with us, you're thinking that this would be a great audience for you to reach and connect with, we'd love to start a conversation with you about that. So please send us an email, again, at info at ChristopherJHarris.com. And in turn, we'll send you an information sheet and be glad to start that incredible conversation of partnership with you. With that said, guys, let's get right back into this amazing conversation that we're having. Be sure to pull your notes back out. It's going to be fun. Let's go. So let me ask you. So, okay, you've been in education now for 2 decades, and you've seen lots of change and transition. You've dealt with lots of kids. You've served in schools that were predominantly, one race, one socioeconomic status. You served in wealthy schools. You served in schools that were predominantly Hispanic, a Hispanic network. I mean, just the whole gamut. You've served in what we call, this is going to sound really country for the people that are listening to this episode, but highfalutin. That means ritzy or bourgeois schools and all of that. So if you had an opportunity to have a mother's assembly, that is a gathering of moms at a school, and everything that you've seen over the last 2 or 3 decades of serving in education and what you know about educational theory and all those things, what would be some of the things that you would tell those moms?
Wow. I would first tell them to show up. And that means be present for your children. Not always physically there, but show up and be present in the moment for your children. Because those small little conversations that you have with them really, really, really make a big difference. So I would definitely tell them to show up. I would tell them to advocate for their children. Some parents know how to do that. Some moms don't, right? They may or may not know, but you are your child's advocate. You stick up for them. You defend them. Now, I'm not saying side with them when there's something wrong, but you are designed, your role is to make sure that every advantage and opportunity that could be afforded to your child within your ability to make it happen, make it happen. And so advocate for your child, show up for your child, advocate for your child, and then be their cheerleader. So sometimes you can advocate for them and they don't know you're advocating for them. But cheering for them is them knowing you are there cheering them on. Like, cheer them on, because you're not always going to have the top student. You may have a student that struggles. You may have a student that has some social issues. You may have a student or child that has some behavior issues, but cheer them on, because those are the things that really make a big, big difference in their lives when they become functioning adults. Notice I did not say do their homework. I didn't say that, because, I have different ideas on homework. Or I didn't say, call their teacher all the time. No, those are, if you're there, if you're present for them and you advocate for them and you cheer for them, you're building healthy adults. You're building lasting individuals that will impact communities, and they will be thriving citizens somewhere. And so those are the things I would share with moms particularly.
So what do you say to those moms who are just overwhelmed? I mean, those moms who say, listen, I got so much going on, and you're coming from an angle, you have a husband at home, and, y'all have money, or, y'all have resources or whatever, and I'm working 2 or 3 jobs. I'm home by myself. I barely got time, to even take a shower. So you're telling me to show up and be present. You're telling me to advocate for my child, and the school system always using language that I don't understand, and they trying to just set my child up for failure, and they just want to label them. And, me and my child, we have a love-hate relationship because, of the past that we've had. And when I'm trying to be their cheerleader, they don't know how to receive that. So what do you tell that mom that's just like, see that would hear those 3 or 4 points and not connect with it at all?
Okay, it's interesting. I had what to say to them until you added the issue of her not being able to communicate with the child, because then that's a completely different issue. So if I took that piece off the table, the disconnect between the mom and child, but let's keep all of the other factors, that she is a working mother, may not have a support base, and is, dealing with fatigue and those different things. One thing about a child, they love their mama. They love their mama. And so it's not always about the quantity, it's about the quality of that time. Just thinking of different strategies. If you could leave them a note, in the morning, if you're gone before they even wake up and they're getting ready to go to school, leave them a note. I'm thinking about you. Give me your best, like you always do. Smiley face, mom. Something, or whatever whatever your child calls you. And even something as simple as, and we take it for granted, but just asking them, how was their day? Is there something I could help you with? And what did you learn new today? So just those 3 questions, how was your day? What did you learn? Is there something I could, what did you learn new today? Like, what did you learn? Was there new learning that took place today? Something that simple. And so usually having them to share those things really opens up an opportunity for you to communicate with them, even if you can't make the parent conferences. I am guilty. When I was a school administrator, I could not make parent conference days because it always seems to conflict when you have a shared schedule district-wide. I would FaceTime in. That. I was at FaceTime conference mama. And so those things are understandable, but it's about being willing to try to make it work. Kids recognize when that effort is being made to make it work. But when I am nonchalant, non-committal, and I don't keep my word, then that's a different story. So that's why when you added the piece about the mom and child having a conflict, I think there were some other pieces that needed to be looked at in that particular scenario. But if I am at somewhat of a healthy relationship with my child, but I'm unable to be present at schools, or always attend meetings, or always, be at different things, I do think another suggestion, or another piece of support that could be provided if there are events at school and you can't make those. And I was in that boat as an administrator. There were events I could not make them because I would be responsible to be on site at my school. Get someone to record it for you. Then we come home and we would watch it, on video or different things, because I could not always be present. And so even if you partner with another parent at the school and ask them, hey, can you videotape it for me? Or are you going? If you could get that on tape and send that to me and sit down and watch it with your child, eat some popcorn, they would love it. But it's really about that effort that's being made to make that happen. So kids understand authentic approaches to support them, and they can definitely see inauthentic approaches as well.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I think, I think one of the things that, you're really saying in there, and you're really being nice about it, but I think we can really just be honest with each other and honest with our listeners to say some sort of way you got to figure out a way to be present. I believe that one of the greatest assignments as a parent is to be attentive and to be present as much as is possible. And when you're not able to, at the level that your child is at, be able to communicate that with them in a way that they can receive it. And I think as parents, we have to remember, and I actually posted this on my social media just a few days ago. There's another podcast, and I'll put this in the show notes link for those that are listening to this, called Parent Q. And on that, they posted that basically you have approximately 936 weeks from the day a child is born until high school graduation. And that's sobering.
Wow.
It's very sobering. And when you think about it that way, you basically, as a parent, have to make up in your mind, within reason and within the framework of what this child is wired to do, I have to set them up for success. And I ain't got long to do that. And so I think that's a lot of what you were sharing there. So thank you for that candor and that encouragement. And I hope parents that are listening to this, will be able to hear that and receive that. I mean, and to show you even a lot of what I'm saying, I mean, we have to figure out ways to make things work within the context that we're in. Some people may be thinking, okay, he's interviewing his wife. And what you may not know is literally while I'm doing this interview, I'm a few thousand miles away from my wife right now. And we had to do this after the kids were in bed and after schedules were done and when airplane rides were completed and just all those kinds of things. And so we all have responsibilities. We all have duties. And it is both the blessing, the burden, and the responsibility that comes with being a parent. Let me ask. Yeah, I'm gonna ask one more question, serious question, and then I'm gonna flip the script and we'll have a little fun a little bit, and then close this episode out. A few weeks ago, you and I had a conversation about some of the side effects, I guess is a nice way to put it, that moms have to deal with as it relates to childbirth and helping to bring children into the world and all those kinds of dynamics. And so, I think one of the things that I left the conversation with just simply saying to you was, I guess it's just some things that men just don't understand or don't have to deal with or don't have to process. What would you say to the dads and the men that are listening to this and the husbands that are listening to this that you think would be encouraging for them as a takeaway to help give some empathy or understanding or help build a bridge for them with regards to some of the things that their wives and their moms deal with that they just don't have to deal with it as men?
You mean the physical toll as it relates to giving birth? Is that making sure I'm understanding?
Yeah, it could be physical realities. It could be emotional or spiritual, whatever it may be.
Okay. I think that there are a couple of things that definitely, well, the most obvious is the physical. Some people are fortunate enough. It's funny, with our first child, I gained a total of 27 pounds, and by 6 weeks, I had lost it all and was back into my regular clothes. And the last 3, the story was not that. Those numbers were like triple, like most, and so there's that physical piece where you're looking different. There is the fatigue that goes with the around the clock care as they from the infant stage, and then when they get a little older, you're still around the clock care because it's a new burden that's put on your heart to love and care for them and to protect them. So that's a different burden and expectation that you had before. And sometimes I think that moms want to do that job so well that they can neglect the other parts of themselves. They can be so engulfed with their children that they don't know how to put other things into perspective. And so I would say to males or, husband figures or even friends, right? Even girlfriends of mothers that don't have children or haven't been through that, to encourage them, and to try to help them to find balance. I spoke earlier about my mom and my upbringing, and my mom centered her life around us as her children. She went back to college later because she wanted to be a stay-at-home mom and really wanted to put that time in. And I definitely think that was her mission and her call. And I knew that when we all grew up and moved away, she was sad. My father had passed away some years earlier. And so it was really that whole, I'm working, I'm here, but where's the rest of the fulfillment? Now, she had other things outside, other social things, other faith-based things that she was part of. But I do know that those years that she put in with us did not allow for her to be a part of other things. And so one of the things that I encourage mothers to do is to have a life. You need to have a life. And so, because sometimes when you're so overwhelmed with taking care of everyone else, and if you're married, you're taking care, of a husband and a household, and, you're, in this group or that group, and sometimes you can lose yourself in that. And so I try to pride myself on a couple of things, making sure that I maintain a healthy prayer life. And that may not always be 45 minutes to an hour every day because I don't have that time to give. And so, I'm a faith-based person, and the Bible tells us to pray without ceasing. So I should always be in a mode of prayer. So even if I have to devote this little time and then go on and do something else, I also believe in committing to a healthy lifestyle. For the most part, sometimes I cheat. My friends that know me, they know I'll fall off the wagon. But I try to commit to having a healthy lifestyle. And so that's, I'm sorry.
You said sometimes you cheat?
Sometimes I cheat on occasion. Sometimes.
Cheat? You mean cheat? You mean cheat on your diet, not cheat on your husband,
right? Yes. Yes. Sometimes I
just wanted to clarify, and I wanted to make sure, that if, in the future, if I find like any candies or cookies or snacks or anything,
that my
like in the car,
is Starburst jelly beans. And if you are listening to this, if you have never had them, you have to have them, but they are addictive. So be ready. Starburst jelly beans, my absolute favorite. So I will cheat with some Starburst jelly beans, but I do try to make sure I work out on a regular basis, drink water, try to watch the things I eat. I do take time for myself. I love to read. So I have books on my Kindle where I will read those things. I love, my escape for me is like watching Lifetime. I do those things. But I try to make sure that I am making deposits into me as a person. I do have friends that I go out with. I actually, in a few weekends, next weekend, I think it's next weekend, we're having a girls' sleepover to hang out. And so those types of things I try to do to make sure that there is a balance and that there is that second wind sometimes that you need to keep going, because it can be draining being a mother. And if you are a person in a position and you say, I don't have time for any of those things, it's amazing what a 5-minute nap can do for you. It's amazing what sometimes just pulling away can do, because I have meetings at work sometimes and I don't like long meetings. So if I'm sitting in a long meeting and I can feel myself, like, oh my goodness, it's just too much, I pull away and I know how to escape. I may read a news article really briefly or shoot a text, to my husband and say, honey, what you doing? Just different ways to always refuel that work for me. So coming up with ways that I could make sure that I am a person, I'm still a person, aside from being a mother. So that's what I was going to share.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. All right, so we're going to start wrapping this interview up. This is getting ready to be real fun. So anybody that follows the Wise Idea podcast knows that pretty regularly I will end the podcast with some spitfire, quickfire questions for my guests that are on the show. So I'm not going to make an exception for my wife. I am going to have some quick fire questions for my wife, and we're going to see how she answers them, even though I'm the one asking.
Okay.
All right. So you need to stretch for a second. Are you ready? You need a drink of water first?
Nope, I'm ready.
All right. All right. So again, ladies and gentlemen, these questions are not scripted. She has no idea what I am about to ask.
I have no idea. Oh my gosh.
All right. Question number one. What has been the funniest moment you've had as a parent?
Oh my gosh. I did. This was some years ago. Our boys are 12 months apart. And I was in church with one of them holding, and they were, like 6 months and maybe like 18 months at this time. I'm holding them, and the baby was swiping through pictures on my cell phone. And so I took the phone. I said, give me let me hold the phone. And I see a picture of myself, which one of them had to have taken because it was taken from a floor angle of me in the shower. And they were getting ready to share this picture with the little boy sitting next to them. And so that was hilarious because I didn't know that picture was in my phone. And so I snatched the phone, as a way to stop him from sharing this picture.
All right. As a husband on a very public podcast, I am not going to edit that out. But if I wish I had an opportunity to, I would have. That's hilarious. All right. Let's move on. All right. What's your favorite food?
The truth, or what's really my favorite food? What should be my favorite food? It should be some kale chips that are baked with a little salt and pepper. But my real favorite food would probably have to be fettuccine Alfredo with large pieces of shrimp.
All right. If there was a Bible character that you most identify with, who would that be?
Ooh, let's see. Jesus. No, I'm kidding. Let's see. Who I most identify with? I think Paul.
All right. You're taking too long to answer these questions now.
Oh, well, you didn't say I was like on the time limit.
All right. Did you win any superlatives in high school?
Yes, I did. Most athletic.
What were they?
I was most athletic senior year, and in 8th grade, I was most athletic and most popular.
All right. Let's see. If you could do any other career, what would you do?
I would be a counselor.
All right. What are you not very good at?
Directions. I'm directionally challenged. I'm honest.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the truth. That is the truth. Did you hear me? That is the bona fide, so help me God, truth. All right. What are your 3 favorite apps?
Facebook. I can't believe I'm saying that. I'd like to do the word flex. It's like a crossword puzzle. And I like the Bible app.
Your favorite quote?
Begin with the end in mind by Covey. Because you'll always know where you're
All right. And then the last one. Yep. And then the last one is top 3 items on your bucket list.
Oh, Oh my Lord, you got my bucket list? I want to. Oh my Lord, do I have a bucket list? I don't know. I don't know what those would be.
That's why I asked, because I was like, does she have a bucket list?
Yeah, I'm like, I don't have a bucket list. I'm going to create a bucket list. That will be my thing. I'll create a bucket list.
All right. Well, I look forward to seeing your bucket list. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been historic today. I have had the privilege, oh yeah, this has been great, of interviewing my wife, my queen, my bride, as we have put the icing on the cake for this whole series around mothers and Mother's Day and moms and what does that look like. And it has been an incredible pleasure. All jokes aside, let me just say to the world and say to you, my wife, you are a great mother. And I'm very, very blessed that I get to spend life with you and be able to parent with you. Very, very blessed for who you are and what you do. So I want to say that in front of everybody.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, she's blushing right now, y'all. I can tell y'all she's blushing right now. So anyways, we got to get out of here. This has been an incredible episode of The Wise Idea. And I'm so excited that you've tuned in. Thank you again for joining us for another episode of the Wise Idea podcast. I hope that you have, in fact, enjoyed our time together, laughing a little bit and getting a glimpse on how my house is ran and what that looks like on a day-to-day basis, and a little bit of our philosophy on parenting and all of that. Of course, if you did and you would like additional resources or information, or you want to find out some of the other episodes and guests that we've had, you can, of course, go to thewiseideapodcast.com. I want to invite you to join the conversation on social media. We are on Twitter and Facebook at The Wise Idea. On Instagram, we are at The Wise Idea Podcast. We also have a Facebook group, The Wise Idea Podcast. And I personally am also on social media. I am on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, LinkedIn, and even Pinterest, all at CJ Harris, ONE. I know I said it earlier, but I want to ask you again. It's really important to us. If you have enjoyed what you've heard, please head over to iTunes or even Google Play and leave us a rating and a review for other listeners to find us. We are also, of course, on Stitcher and TuneIn, coming soon to Spotify and iHeartRadio. And finally, guess what, y'all? If you want to share something with us, or you want to give us another tidbit or some more information about things that are happening in your life or things that you've learned as a result of the Wise Idea podcast, feel free to send us a message at info at thewiseideapodcast.com. Again, thank you so much to my wife, Dr. Carmen Harris, for being on with us today. Thank you all for joining us today. It's such a pleasure to have you tune in with us each week. We'll look forward to seeing you the next time. And you know what I say at the end of every single podcast? Live wisely.